Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take, well, a whole mountain of information, history, music, biography, and distill it down into the knowledge shortcut you need.
And today, we are definitely strapping in.
We're diving deep, really deep into Blues Traveler, an American rock band that's frankly pretty unique.
Oh, absolutely. Idiosyncratic is a good word. Formed back in '87, Princeton, New Jersey.
And our mission today really is to unpack how this group managed it all. Decades of success, pioneering the HORDE festival, dealing with immense tragedy, transforming their lineup. It's quite a story.
It really is. They're known for those creative segues in their live shows, right?
Yeah.
But also those huge hits. It's a strange mix in some ways.
We need to get a handle on their core identity first. The lineup most people probably know, at least initially, John Popper on vocals and that absolutely unmistakable harmonica.
Right. Chan Kinchla on guitar, Brendan Hill pounding the drums, and the late Bobby Sheehan on bass, the original core four.
And then the transformation we'll get into later, bringing in Tad Kinchla, Chan's brother, on bass,
Yeah.
and Ben Wilson on keyboards, making the quintet they are now.
But yeah, when you say Blues Traveler, most people immediately think of the big singles. But anyway, kind of laid the groundwork, but then Run Around and Hook just took them to a whole different level commercially.
That mid-'90s moment is definitely the hook for a lot of people, isn't it? But it almost hides the depth and complexity of their whole career.
Exactly. And here's where the deep dive really kicks off. That song, Run Around, it wasn't just big, it was massive.
Won the Grammys, right. Best rock performance by a duo or group with vocal in '96.
It did. But even more surprising, maybe, is that it broke the record for the most weeks ever spent on the Billboard Hot 100 chart at the time.
Wow.
Think about that. A band built on like 7-minute improvised jams, having that kind of mainstream pop chart longevity, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, that really sets the stage. A band bridging the jam scene and, well, massive pop success. Okay, let's get into it.
Oh.
Okay, let's rewind back to the very beginning. The foundation and the New York grind. This isn't one of those stories where a label manufactured a band. This is pure high school garage band stuff. Princeton, New Jersey, mid-'80s.
Totally. It starts with John Popper and the drummer, Brendan Hill. They had this early band called The Establishment.
Yeah, very high school name.
Isn't it? They made some early cassette demos, apparently played this wild mix of originals and covers, like everything from Van Moreland's Gloria to, get this, the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Wow, okay. Eclectic from the start.
Definitely. And then the lineup we think of as the original Blues Traveler really came together around 1987.
That's when Chan Kinchla joined on guitar. And his story is interesting too, right? He was a football player.
Yeah, a pretty promising one in high school, but then he had this pretty serious knee injury. And that was it for football. He just decided, nope, music it is, full commitment.
That's a major pivot. Imagine going from potential football career to co-founding a jam band giant.
It really is. And then came Bobby Sheehan, the founding bassist. He and Popper became super close. Once Sheehan joined, that was the quartet. Still called the Blues Band at that point, actually.
Okay.
And this is where you get some of that early band mythology, like the Black Cat Jam.
Right. I love these origin stories. What's the deal with the Black Cat Jam?
Well, the story goes, it was this epic jam session, probably in a basement somewhere, and they basically came up with the core ideas, the grooves, for a bunch of songs that ended up on their first album.
And a black cat was just hanging out.
Apparently, just nearby while all this creativity was happening, so they took it as a good omen, adopted the black cat as their mascot. It kind of speaks to that spontaneous, maybe slightly superstitious vibe they had early on.
That spontaneity definitely fits with the name change, too. They didn't pick a blues legend or anything.
Nope. Blues Traveler comes from Gozer the Traveler.
The demon from Ghostbusters.
Exactly, which is just such a wonderfully random pop culture pull for a band name.
Was it meant to be ironic or just something funny from their college days?
Seems like a bit of both. Youthful irreverence.
Yeah.
But anyway, high school ends and they needed to get serious. So where do you go in the late 80s if you're an ambitious rock band?
New York City.
Bingo.
And they really committed. Popper, Hill, and Sheehan all enrolled in the music program at the new school. Chan Kinchla went to NYU.
And crucially, they all crammed into an apartment together over on Bergen Street in Brooklyn.
Right, sharing space.
And that move just ignited their early career. They played relentlessly. I mean, sometimes nightly gigs across the New York circuit.
They got that regular Wednesday night slot at Wetlands, didn't they?
Yeah, Wetlands Preserve in Tribeca. That place was legendary, the absolute hub for that whole jam band, roots rock scene that was bubbling up, getting a regular contract there. That was gold dust.
Wow.
They also played regularly at the Nightingale over on the Lower East Side. That venue actually inspired the song Defense and Desire.
And that Brooklyn apartment, it wasn't just Blues Traveler incubating there, was it?
No, this is another key connection. They shared the apartment with a high school friend, Chris Barron.
The singer for the Spin Doctors.
Exactly. So Popper and Hill actually started another band with some other folks called the Trucking Company initially, that quickly morphed into the Spin Doctors with Barron out front.
So you literally had two bands that would define so much of the 90s jam pop sound, living and breathing the same air, sharing the same space.
Creating ideas, influences.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
And you could see that connection in their live shows back then, too, right? They did these joint concerts.
Oh, yeah, multi-set shows where they basically play nonstop, one band flowing into the other. It wasn't like opener and headliner. It felt more like a collective communal thing. Fans from that era really remember that energy.
That kind of grind, that community, it had to pay off eventually.
It did, and pretty quickly. They got spotted at a New York gig by Patrick Clifford, who was a scout for A&M Records, signed the contract. And that was it for college.
Pretty much. Dropped out of their classes around 1990 to hit the road full-time.
They also got some serious industry muscle behind them with David Graham.
Right, son of the legendary Bill Graham. Having him as management gave them instant credibility, especially in that whole Grateful Dead jam band world. Big connection.
So the first album, self-titled Blues Traveler, drops in 1990.
Yep, but anyway, started getting traction on college radio straight away. Then Travelers and Thieves followed pretty quick in 91.
And then later that year, Bill Graham tragically died in that helicopter crash.
Yeah, and the band released a live tribute EP on tour forever. It really cemented their place in that lineage, you know. They even had Carlos Santana guest on it.
Wow. Talk about starting strong. Major label, legendary management, Santana guesting, all within a couple of years of leaving college.
They were definitely on their way.
Okay, so moving into the phase where things really start to accelerate, mainstream breakthrough and cultural impact. They laid the groundwork in New York, built a following. But the leap to household name status, that involves something maybe a bit unexpected, late-night TV.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot talk about their breakthrough without talking about David Letterman.
Yeah, I was a massive fan, wasn't he?
Huge. He wasn't shy about it either. He'd openly call them his favorite band right there on the show. For a band coming out of the jam scene, having that kind of consistent, high-profile championing from someone like Letterman, that was just invaluable.
And it wasn't just one appearance. They were on The Late Show all the time.
More than any other musical artist in the show's history, apparently. That's staggering. It wasn't just playing a song. It was becoming part of the show's fabric, constant national exposure.
Did Paul Schaefer ever play with them?
He did. Letterman's band leader played on some of their recordings, too. It showed they could totally hang in that tight mainstream media world, even though their roots were in improvisation.
But probably the biggest thing they did in terms of shaping the music scene itself was founding the HORDE Festival in '92.
Oh, HORDE, yeah. Horizons of Rock developing everywhere. That was a really conscious move.
What was the thinking behind it?
Well, you had Lollapalooza, which was huge then, focusing on alternative, grunge, that kind of thing. HORDE was deliberately set up as the alternative, maybe. It was built around the jam band ethos. Improvisation, longer sets, that sort of Grateful Dead community feel.
So they basically saw a gap in the touring market for bands like themselves.
Exactly. And they filled it brilliantly. It gave bands like Phish, Widespread Panic, their old pals, the Spin Doctors, a dedicated summer touring circuit where they knew they'd find their audience.
It really positioned Blues Traveler as leaders of that whole scene, didn't it? More than just musicians, but organizers, too.
For sure. And the festival was really successful, ran right through '98. It really helped define that whole DIY, non-mainstream touring model for a lot of bands in the '90s.
But even as they were building this incredible thing with HORDE, they hit a serious roadblock, personally. Or rather, John Popper did.
Yeah, 1992, right when they were recording their third album, Save His Soul, Popper had a really bad motorcycle accident, landed him in the hospital, needed surgery.
That must have thrown a wrench in the works.
You'd think it would stop everything, right? But this is where you see their Their resilience, maybe? Their work ethic? They didn't cancel the tour.
No.
Nope. They just resumed the shows with Popper performing from a wheelchair.
Wow. That sends a message.
Totally.
Yeah.
It showed the fans, look, the music comes first, the show goes on no matter what. That kind of dedication builds serious loyalty. And that album still came out, gave us singles like Defense and Desire and Conquer Me.
Okay, so all of this, the Letterman bumps, HORDE, overcoming the accident, it's all building momentum towards 1994. And the album Four.
Four. Yeah, this is the moment. This is when Blues Traveler went from being kings of the jam scene to, well, genuine mainstream rock stars.
The numbers on Four are just staggering. Sold what, over 6 million copies?
Worldwide, yeah. Diamond status eventually. They worked with producers Michael Barbiero and Steve Thompson, who knew how to craft a hit sound. And that first single, Runaround, that was the one that just crossed over everywhere.
We mentioned the Grammy win earlier. That really put them on a different map, didn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly this harmonica-led jam band is winning mainstream rock awards.
It proved there was this huge audience out there for their sound, even beyond the dedicated jam fans. And then the follow-up single, Hook, was another massive hit.
Hook is such a clever song, too. It's literally about how catchy pop songs are constructed to hook you in. Very meta.
Totally. And suddenly, this band that encouraged fans to tape their shows is playing like the biggest stages imaginable.
Woodstock 94, that's a big one.
Huge validation. Then they're opening for the Rolling Stones. I mean, come on. Rock royalty.
And didn't they play SNL under dramatic circumstances?
They did. 1995 season premiere. Prince was supposed to play but canceled last minute. Blues Travelers stepped in. That showed how much trust and respect they commanded in the industry by that point. Peak visibility.
Their music started showing up in movies all over the place, too.
Oh, yeah. They did that cover of Secret Agent Man for Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. And Bob Seger's Get Out of Denver for Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Plus, they had songs in Speed, Kingpin, The Truth About Cats and Dogs. Their sound just fit that mid-90s vibe.
But they actually appeared in a movie, too, right?
Blues Brothers 2000. Yeah, they performed an original song, Maybe I'm Wrong, in the film. They were just woven into the fabric of 90s pop culture at that point.
So the follow-up album was Straight On Till Morning in 1997.
Right. And it did well. Went platinum, hit number 11 on the Billboard 200. Carolina Blues was a decent single, hit number 4 on the rock charts.
But it wasn't Four.
No, it wasn't 4. Matching that kind of phenomenon is almost impossible, right? But it was still a successful record.
And they were planning something ambitious next, weren't they? A concept album.
Yeah, based on an Aesop's fable, The North Wind and the Sun. They were going to call it The Sun, The Storm, and The Traveler. Sounds pretty complex, very conceptual.
But they never got to make it.
No. Before they could really dive into that project, everything changed drastically.
Yeah, this brings us to a really difficult period. Tragedy, transformation, and the new lineup. The year 1999 just hit them with this 1-2 punch that almost ended the band.
It was an absolutely brutal year for them. First, it was John Popper's health. In the summer of '99, he needed emergency heart surgery.
That sounds serious.
It was. Turned out he had a 95% arterial blockage. He'd been struggling with his weight, diabetes. Years of, as he put it, compulsive overeating had really taken a toll. He was facing a life-threatening situation.
And the immediate impact was they had to cancel that big annual Red Rock show on July 4th, right?
Yep. First time in years they'd missed it. Suddenly the band's future felt really uncertain, just hanging on Popper's recovery.
And then, while he's still recovering, just weeks later, the unthinkable happened.
Yeah. August 20th, 1999. Founding bassist Bobby Sheehan was found dead in his home in New Orleans.
Just devastating. How old was he?
Only 31. The official cause was an accidental overdose. Cocaine, Valium, heroin were found in his system.
God, these guys were practically brothers. High school bandmates, Brooklyn roommates. Losing Sheehan must have been just shattering.
Absolutely. It wasn't just losing a bandmate, it was losing family. Popper's solo album, Zygote, actually came out just days after Sheehan died, but obviously nobody's focus was on promoting music then. It was all about grief and figuring out what, if anything, came next.
So the remaining three, Popper, Chan Kinchla, Brendan Hill, they had to decide. Is this the end of Blues Traveler?
Right. And according to them, the decision was unanimous, though incredibly difficult. They felt strongly that Bobby, who was really the heart and soul of that early band in many ways, would have wanted them to keep the music going.
That decision then led to, well, a pretty unconventional way to find a new bassist.
Highly unconventional. They held auditions during their live shows.
Seriously, just threw people on stage.
Pretty much. Imagine the pressure. walking out cold, no rehearsal, in front of thousands of fans who are grieving the guy you're replacing, who is also a founding member and best friend to the other guys on stage.
That's intense.
Monumental pressure.
And the first guy to try out was Tad Kinchla, Chan's younger brother.
Yep. Tad Kinchla. He had this interesting background. Brown University grad, studied political science, played upright bass when he was younger. He auditioned first.
And they just picked him.
Unanimously, yeah.
Yeah.
And get this. His audition was literally the band's first performance after Sheehan's death. He had zero rehearsal time with them before stepping on that stage, had to just jump in and find the groove.
Incredible. And they decided to add another member, too.
Yeah, they took this moment of rebuilding to finally do something Sheehan had apparently always pushed for, adding a permanent keyboard player.
To kind of fill out the sound.
Exactly. So in January 2000, they brought in Ben Wilson. He came from a band called Big Dave and the Ultrasonics, more of a jump blues outfit.
And Wilson became more than just a keyboard player.
Oh, yeah. He quickly became a key songwriter, really integrated into the creative core of the band, brought a fresh perspective. So the classic quartet sound was gone. They were now a quintet with a fundamentally different dynamic, a broader sound.
And that ambitious concept album about the fable.
That got scrapped.
Right.
Understandably, I think. After everything they'd just been through, maybe something that heavy or conceptual just didn't feel right. They needed a fresh start, emotionally and musically.
So they started writing new material together as this new 5-piece band.
Right. And that resulted in the album Bridge, which came out in 2001. The original title was going to be A Bridge Out of Brooklyn.
Ah, a tribute to Sheehan. B.O.B.
Exactly. Brooklyn Bobby. It was clearly meant as a marker, a transition, an emotional pivot.
We had a couple of singles, Girl Inside My Head, just for me. They got some airplay.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the 4 days. That massive mainstream wave had definitely crested. And then things got tougher on the business side, too.
A&M dropped them.
Yeah, 2002. Part of some big corporate restructuring at the label. So just as they'd rebuilt the band personally, their major label deal ended. End of an era.
How did they react to that?
They pivoted smartly, I think. They embraced being independent, signed with Sanctuary Records for the next album, Truth Be Told, then moved to Vanguard Records for Bastardos in 2005.
And that Vanguard album, Bastardos, that felt like a statement, didn't it? They worked with Jay Bennett on that?
Yeah, Jay Bennett, who'd been in Wilco. Working with him definitely signaled a shift away from the major label pop polish and back towards more rock and indie sensibilities.
Right.
They really promoted Bastardos as, like, this is us getting back to the music we want to play. It wasn't a huge seller, but it charted respectably on the independent albums chart. It felt like they'd weathered the storm, the tragedy, the lineup change, losing the label, and forged a new path forward.
So let's talk about that path forward and the enduring cultural footprint. Because even after the huge pop success faded, Blues Traveler maintained this incredibly dedicated fan base and, well, a unique place in the rock landscape. A lot of that has to do with their live shows, right? Especially one particular tradition.
Oh, absolutely. You really can't discuss their legacy without talking about Red Rocks.
The Independence Day shows.
It's got to be one of the most iconic, long-running traditions in American rock. Headlining Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado every July 4th.
Since when did that start?
Since 1994. Think about that commitment. Every single year.
Have they ever missed it?
Only twice in nearly 3 decades. They missed 1999, which we mentioned because Popper was recovering from heart surgery, and they missed 2020, like everyone missed everything because of the pandemic. Otherwise, Clockwork, July 4th, Red Rocks, Blues Traveler.
It's more than just a concert at this point, isn't it?
Oh, it's a pilgrimage. Fans plan vacations around it, travel from all over the country. It's become the central event in the band's calendar and the fans' lives.
And they use those shows specifically, right, to try out new stuff.
Definitely. It's where they often debut new songs or bring back old deep cuts that haven't been played in ages. It's a celebration of their history and their future. The 2003 shows were so significant they released them as a live album, Live on the Rocks, and a DVD, Thinnest of Air. Ziggy Marley even showed up for that one.
Wow. That tradition really speaks to the whole jam band ethos they helped shape. And another huge part of that was their attitude towards fan recordings.
Yeah, the taping policy. They were pioneers in that, really embracing it from the start.
They just let fans record the shows.
Not just let them, they actively encouraged it. Microphones on stands in the crowd, trading tapes, the whole thing. As long as nobody was selling the recordings for profit, it was totally cool.
That must have built incredible goodwill.
Huge loyalty. In the pre-internet boom days, that tape trading network was their social media, their grassroots marketing. It kept the hardcore fans connected and invested long after the radio hits stopped coming. And that continues today. You can find thousands of fan recordings hosted legally on places like the Live Music Archive.
It's a different relationship with the audience. Genre-wise, they've always been tricky to pin down too.
Yeah, deliberately so, I think. Blues rock, folk rock, alternative rock, southern rock. You hear elements of all of that. It's this blend, but like you said earlier, it's always anchored by Popper's harmonica. That's the constant thread.
We should touch on the other guys in the band too, beyond Popper. Brendan Hill, the drummer. What's his story?
Well, he was actually born in London, holds dual U.S. and Irish citizenship, lives out in Washington State now on Bainbridge Island.
And he's got a pretty interesting side business out there, right?
Well, he does. He owns a retail marijuana store called Paper and Leaf.
Huh. Given some of Popper's later legal issues we'll get to, is there any connection or irony there?
Doesn't seem like it. Seems more like a straightforward business venture, taking advantage of the legal status in Washington. He's also still drumming in a side project called Stolen Ogre, though it seems like Blues Traveler is obviously the main focus. Shows that independent spirit, maybe?
And Chan Kinchla, the guitarist. His sound is so crucial to their dynamic.
Totally. That interplay between his guitar and Popper's harmonica is fundamental. He's got a newer side project, too, something heavier, called W4RHRS3. They started playing shows in LA back in early 2023, just keeping those creative fires burning outside the main gig, you know. He's also known for playing those distinctive Paul Reed Smith guitars.
Okay, we can't really talk about Blues Traveler without doing a deeper dive specifically on the frontman. Let's get into the John Popper phenomenon. I mean, his voice, his harmonica playing, his persona. It's all so central to what the band is.
Absolutely. You could probably do a whole episode just on Popper. He's a fascinating figure, born in Cleveland, Ohio. His dad was an immigrant from Hungary.
And apparently, he's related to a famous classical musician.
Yeah, he believes he's related to David Popper, this well-known bohemian cellist from the 19th century, which is interesting because, by his own admission, he was not a natural musician, or at least not a willing one at first.
Right, the stories say he hated his early music lessons. Piano, cello, guitar.
Hated practicing, yeah. Apparently, he initially wanted to be a comedian. Used humor to deal with being bullied as a kid. The big shift came after he did a Blues Brothers routine with a friend for a talent show or something. That's when he discovered the harmonica.
Just took to it.
Obsessively. By the time he was in high school in Princeton, he was good enough and maybe persuasive enough to convince the jazz band teacher to let him play harmonica instead of trumpet.
On what song?
Apparently, he busted out a solo on Thomas Dolby's She Blinded Me with Science.
Ah, that's amazing. Pure Popper.
Right. Raw talent meets sheer force of will.
And when we talk about him as the harmonica technician, it's because he really approached the instrument differently, didn't he?
Totally differently. It wasn't just an accessory. It was the lead instrument, like a lead guitar. His go-to is the Honor Special 20 diatonic harmonica. He calls it the Porsche of harmonicas.
But the challenge with diatonic harmonicas is they're only in one key, right? And Blues Traveler songs jump around keys constantly.
Exactly. So Popper needed a way to switch harmonicas instantly mid-solo without fumbling around. This led to maybe his most iconic visual trademark, at least for many years, the custom harmonica belt or bandolier.
Right, the vest thing.
Yeah, this custom-made vest or belt designed to hold harmonicas in all 12 keys plus spares right there on his chest or waist. He could grab the one he needed instantly without even looking while singing or playing. It was an ingenious piece of practical engineering born out of musical necessity.
It really defined his look for a long time, especially before his weight loss. Didn't that belt end up on TV?
It did. After his health transformation, it didn't fit anymore, and it actually got sold on the show, Pawn Stars. Went for like $2,700, a piece of rock history.
But the technical innovation wasn't just holding them. It was the sound, too.
Right. He famously uses a special microphone setup with switches, kind of like guitar pedals, to add effects, wah, distortion, delay directly to the harmonica.
He wanted to sound like a guitar.
He was inspired by Jimi Hendrix, wanting to manipulate the sound of his instrument the way Hendrix did with the guitar. He completely changed what people thought a harmonica could sound like in a rock context.
We touched on his health transformation earlier. That 1999 heart surgery was a major wake-up call.
Huge. That 95% blockage, he was lucky to survive. It led to him eventually getting gastric bypass surgery.
And he lost a significant amount of weight.
Yeah, a dramatic transformation. He talks about it all very candidly in his autobiography from 2016, Suck and Blow. And other stories I'm not supposed to tell, doesn't shy away from the struggles.
His personal life and views have also attracted a lot of attention, particularly his politics and his interest in weapons. We need to cover this impartially.
Right. Politically, he's described himself as a libertarian who is a Republican when pushed. He also once said, famously, "I was a bleeding heart liberal until I got a job," which suggests a shift over time.
And his endorsements reflect that kind of fluidity, maybe.
Definitely. You look at the record, he endorsed George W. Bush in 2004, pretty standard Republican move. But then 4 years later, he voted for Barack Obama.
Okay.
Then in 2012, he was actively supporting Ron Paul, the Libertarian Republican. He even phone banked for him in New Hampshire and played at a rally.
Right, back to the libertarian side.
Exactly. And then in 2016, he said he didn't vote for either Trump or Clinton.
Right.
So it's not a straight party line thing. It seems more rooted in that libertarian ideal of individual freedom, whoever he feels best represents it at the time.
He's also very outspoken about the Second Amendment.
Very. He's a major weapons collector. We're talking firearms, swords.
Yeah.
He even owns a functional Civil War cannon that apparently cost him $10,000.
A cannon.
Wow.
And he carries weapons.
He stated he often carries firearms on stage in states where it's legal to do so. He sees it as exercising his rights.
This passion led to a significant legal incident in 2007, didn't it, in Washington state?
It did. He was a passenger in his own car when it was pulled over for speeding. Police searched the vehicle and found hidden compartments
Containing weapons.
Yes. The reports mention an arsenal. 4 rifles, 9 handguns, a switchblade, brass knuckles, a taser, night vision goggles. Quite a collection.
Okay, but we need to be precise here for impartiality. What were the legal consequences?
Right. Importantly, most of the firearms and the taser were found to be legally registered and properly secured according to Washington law at the time. So no charges were filed related to those specific items.
But some items were illegal.
The brass knuckles and the switchblade were prohibited. He agreed to surrender those. There was also marijuana found in the car.
What happened with the drug charge?
It was a misdemeanor marijuana possession charge. That charge was eventually dropped after Popper completed 8 hours of required drug counseling and stayed out of trouble for a year. So while the headlines focused on the arsenal, the actual legal outcome centered on the prohibited items and the dismissed misdemeanor drug charge.
Got it. And besides Blues Traveler, he's kept busy with other musical projects over the years, too.
Oh, yeah. That solo album, Zygote, came out right around that awful time in 1999. He was part of that jam band supergroup Frogwings for a bit.
Right.
Then he did the John Popper project with the DJ Logic in 2006, which was an interesting mix of rock and turntablism. And more recently, in 2011, he had an American roots band called John Popper and the Dusk Gray Troubadours, always exploring different sounds.
Okay, so let's bring it up to the present day. The modern era and Blues Traveler's endurance.
Yeah.
After they solidified that new 5-piece lineup and went independent, what have they been focused on musically?
They've stayed pretty consistently active, releasing albums throughout the 2000s and 2010s. In 2007, they did an interesting album called Cover Yourself.
What was the concept there?
It was basically a greatest hits collection, but instead of just compiling old tracks, they re-recorded everything acoustically, stripped down, reinterpreted versions of their own songs, kind of showed the songwriting strength underneath the jams.
Then came North Hollywood Shootout in 2008. That one got some press for a guest star, right?
Yeah. Bruce Willis played harmonica on one of the tracks, Free Willis.
Bruce Willis plays harmonica.
Apparently, he's known to be a blues fan, so that was kind of a fun, unexpected collaboration. Then they kept putting out albums of original stuff. Blow Up the Moon in 2015, Hurry Up and Hang Around in 2018. Steady output.
But their most recent direction seems like a really significant shift back to their roots.
Absolutely. A really smart and, it turns out, successful pivot. In 2021, they released Traveler's Blues.
Which was all covers.
All blues covers, getting right back to the blues in Blues Traveler. And they brought in some great guests for it, like Keb Mo, Christone, Kingfish, Ingram. Even Rita Wilson sang on a track.
Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife.
The very same. She sings too. It showed they still had respect and connections across the music world.
And that album got some serious recognition, didn't it?
It did. Huge validation for them. It earned a Grammy nomination for Best Traditional Blues Album at the 2022 awards.
Wow. From winning Best Rock Performance in the 90s to being nominated for Traditional Blues decades later. That's quite a journey.
It really shows their musical depth and their willingness to evolve or maybe return to their core influences. It proved they were still vital and relevant in a whole different genre category.
And they seem to have liked that blueprint because they followed it up pretty quickly.
Yep. In October 2023, they released Traveler's Soul. Same idea, but this time focusing on classic R&B and soul covers.
So it looks like this recent phase is about exploring and celebrating the foundational music that inspired them in the first place.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
band still finding new ways to express themselves, even after, 35 plus years, by looking back at the music they love.
So when you look back at the whole trajectory, I mean, it's kind of staggering, isn't it? The sheer depth and length of Blues Traveler's career.
It really is. From those high school days in Princeton, grinding it out in the New York clubs,
To unexpected massive pop stardom.
surviving Popper's health crisis, which could easily have ended things.
And then the absolute devastation of losing Bobby Sheehan, a founding member. Just gut-wrenching.
And through all of that, navigating Popper's unique public persona, the legal stuff, yet still maintaining that incredible Red Rocks tradition year after year.
And let's not forget HORDE. That festival genuinely changed the touring landscape for a whole generation of bands. A lasting contribution.
Yeah, I think the real knowledge nugget here, the takeaway, is about resilience. Resilience built on, well, a couple of things.
Like what?
Like that foundational loyalty, those core relationships between Popper, Hill, the Kinchla brothers now, but also, critically, their willingness to change.
After the Sheehan tragedy.
Exactly. They didn't just try to replace him. They fundamentally transformed the band's lineup, their sound, by adding keys. They adapted, and they combined that adaptability with sticking to traditions, like the fan taping policy, which built this incredibly durable community around them. That's how you sustain a career across decades and genres, I think.
Community and transformation.
Yeah.
It's a powerful combination.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought, something for you to chew on.
Okay.
We've seen Blues Traveler move pretty seamlessly, right? From gritty blues rock to massive pop success with Four, and now they're finding acclaim doing these dedicated blues and soul cover albums.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about the power of that one single, really distinctive musical element, John Popper's harmonica, that amplified, technically brilliant, almost guitar-like sound? Is that the anchor? Is that Porsche of harmonicas treated like a lead instrument, the thing that holds it all together and allows them to explore basically any musical territory they want while still sounding definitively like Blues Traveler?
That's a great question. Is the harmonica the true constant that defines their sound, no matter the genre? Something to definitely think about next time you hear that wail.
For sure.
All right, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into the long, strange, and remarkably enduring trip of Blues Traveler.